Hello, everybody. Welcome into the Casual Sports Podcast. As always, I'm Alek Koberna. Matt Morrison's supposed to be here, but he's currently driving across the state of Pennsylvania. So cell reception isn't always the best. He's going to be jumping in and out throughout the show, but it seems like it might be a little bit more of a solo challenge here for me. Matt did this a couple weeks ago, so I guess I can cover for him this week and see how this goes for me. So I guess let's go ahead and jump right into the show then. Start things off with a little bit of Phoenix preview for the NASCAR Cup Series coming up this weekend. Coming up next, the Ruoff Mortgage 500 from the Phoenix Raceway, 312 laps around there on Fox this Sunday at 3:30. Should be a great race. We've seen a lot of speed so far from a lot of cars. The one big question for me, how are the Fords going to run? Because so far on this season, you haven't seen the Fords really have a lot of speeds, especially not in a long run race. If they can get something that happened to Alex Bowman in late stages, I think you're going to see Alex Bowman in that last race. I think you're going to see them have a shot, but until Fords figure out, it's going to be very difficult, I think, for any of us here on the show to go ahead and pick them. I mean, you look at their last five winners here. Two have been Fords, Kevin Harvick and Joey Logano, but with the speed of this season, I don't know how much you can go there. Truex, Denny Hamlin, and Kyle Busch also have four of the most recent wins at this track. I'm expecting another Toyota heavy race. You saw some fast cars that last weekend over there in Las Vegas Speedway. I'm expecting a lot of speed again here today. It's going to come down to the pits. We saw that this past weekend. Pit strategy was huge in the late races. On overtime, don't ever expect Kyle Busch to take another 4 set of tires this entire season. He's going to, and that's just a fact at this point. He's not going to risk that again. Going into this race with the speed I think I saw out of the Toyotas this last weekend at Las Vegas, seeing the similarities between these two tracks and the way Toyota's dominated in the recent history, I think I got to go with probably two of my three picks got to be Toyota, and two of the three have to be the most recent winners, Kyle Busch and Martin Truex Jr. These are two of the best cars we've seen in the past few years. Truex hasn't had the same amount of speed he has had in the past, but he is one of the favorites going in here this weekend. He won the 2021 playoff race here at Phoenix. I got a feeling you're going to see him back up here in the top 10 sooner rather than later. So I got to go Martin Truex as one of my pick. Kyle Busch, the speed he showed at Las Vegas this past weekend was pretty much unmatched by anybody out there on the track. I mean, he was dominating a huge portion of the race. I mean, not always in first place, but to start out 37th and be in first place down on the final lap before that caution sent them into overtime. He had to be doing some great things along the way, and he certainly showed a lot of speed in that last race. I'm hoping he brings it back here, and I got Kyle Busch as one of my other ones. And Kyle Larson, the speed he's had this season, always top five. It doesn't seem like this guy is going to be having much of a slip up. Matt's always talking about how great of a driver this guy is. And you put him in any car, he's going to find ways to win, and he's going to be fast. And that's just exactly what you've seen so far on this young NASCAR season is Kyle Larson might be the greatest driver in NASCAR as of right now. That not all time, but just right now, he might be the best guy. And it seems he's adapting the fastest to these new cars as well. So that's going to be a big jump for him going into the rest of this season. Is if no one else can figure out these cars, he's going to continue to dominate because you've seen a lot of speed out of Chevys. I wouldn't be surprised to see another Chevy, somebody we don't normally see up there in that top five competing. I mean, you've seen the last couple of weeks so far in the season that anybody and everybody can compete in these new cars. And it's really added a new level of competition that I think NASCAR desperately needed. The long runs are still becoming a problem. The field gets very separated. Passing becomes very difficult, but I think that's a big turn on for a lot of NASCAR fans. They want this to be difficult while being exciting at the same time. I think these new cars are adding that. And I think the speeds that we're seeing out of drivers that are normally in the back half of the pack to be able to compete with those people up front. I think it's doing great things for the sport, but I got Larson, Busch, and Martin Truex Jr. as my three favorites here. Is getting messages from Matt if he's going to be able to jump in. He looks like he's going to be out, so it's official. It's the Alek Koberna Casual Sports Podcast. All others have fallen. One remains. You get to enjoy my pretty face for the entire duration here. Next for 55 minutes is nothing but me. So grab the popcorn. This should be something here. So let's go ahead and jump over into college basketball. And we've been following a lot of tournaments throughout this week. And we're coming down to some great ones here. We already had multiple upsets. Penn State took down Ohio State. Indiana just pulled off the upset over Illinois 65-63 in the Big Ten quarterfinal. They now advance to the semifinal against the winner, I believe, of Penn State and Purdue. So big matchups coming all around here in the Big Ten. Texas A&M leads by 7 points in the final minute against number 4 Auburn in the SEC tournament quarterfinal. So upsets are coming fast and furious. Cincinnati holds a 5-point lead at the half over Houston as well. I believe Davidson's game is coming down to the wire as well. Let's see what they got going on. Actually, no, pardon me. They're blowing out Fordham. It's currently 72-54. So Davidson looking like they're going to cash their spot into March Madness. Couple more games coming up on the day in quarterfinal action. The SEC's going, Big Ten's going. But we're going to focus in on the semifinals. That's what I'm going to predict here. So long as it's just me and we got time going, I'm going to talk about these semifinal games. So the first one up here, Creighton versus Providence. Now, I think if Mike was on the show, I think he'd be rolling with Creighton. They've had a really phenomenal year, 21-10 overall, 12-7 in conference play. On the other side, the Providence Friars won the Big East. They are an 11 seed overall. They were in our top 10 pretty much this entire season. They're expected to get a great spot in this season's March Madness, and 14-3 in conference play, 25-4 overall. The one thing, though, when you look at this Blue Jays squad of Creighton, this big man in Ryan Hawkins, the 6'7" senior out of Atlantic, Iowa, he's getting them 15 points per game and 7.7 rebounds. Nothing about his stats are jumping out, but he has been that leader all season long for this team, and it's been a whole team effort as well for the Creighton Blue Jays this season. They haven't had that big jump out of anybody. Creighton pulled off the upset against Marquette last night. They won by 11 points. And Providence, we were talking about it. It was going on during the show. They got taken down to the wire by Butler. So I'm expecting a close matchup. Creighton showed they have what it takes to take down a team like Marquette, who, had slipped down in the later stages of the Big East Conference play, but was still a dominant team we talked about all season long. Nearly a 20-win squad on the regular season. Creighton, when they hit that 21-win mark and 12-7 in conference play, this became a top 4 team in the Big East. Definitely somebody to watch out for. To me, I still don't know if I have the confidence out of the squad. Providence has shown a lot this season on being able to bounce back in a lot of games and finding ways to close things out down the stretch. So I think you see a good back-and-forth battle here today. But when you're talking about phenomenal basketball players that I think can make a splash at the next level, I don't know where he's going to end up going. Most likely G League. But this man, Nate Watson, the 6'10", 260-pound senior out of Portsmouth, Virginia for the Friars, has been dominant all season long. He gives them what they need, 14 points per game. His player efficiency rating isn't great, but this is the guy that they've always had to lead them. Really, fifth-year senior at this point, coming off a 17-point season last year. He's averaged almost 10 points every season of his career so far at Providence. Last time out against Butler, dropped 26 points. When they need him the most, he tends to step through. So with that being said, you got to imagine Nate Watson's going to have a similar performance. So I think you're going to see Hawkins and Watson go big here later today, but it's going to be the number 2s to step up. And when you get into these bigger games, that's exactly who it has to be. You have to have those number 2 step up, as Matt's going to join us back in here real quick. Matt, why don't you go ahead and throw us in your NASCAR picks here for Phoenix. Who you got? I threw in Martin Truex Jr., Kyle Busch, and Kyle Larson as you're in here briefly. What do you got for us in NASCAR?
So definitely got to go Kyle Larson there. I like your picks. I like your other picks, but I'm going to go Kevin Harvick again. I think Harvick will be up in the mix again. And I'm going to actually throw in I'm going to throw in like a Denny Hamlin. Hamlin's going to get a win sooner or later.
Yeah, definitely. You can't keep him out for long. We got a semifinal matchup going on here later today, Matt, in the Big East. Creighton versus Providence. Creighton's coming off a win against Marquette, 74-63 last night. And Providence beat Butler while we were talking on the show yesterday, 65-61. What do you got going into this matchup between these two squads?
It's going to be a pretty good matchup. I like what what was this matchup again? I didn't hear.
Brayton versus Providence.
Yeah. So I like this matchup. I'm going to go Providence. I I think Creighton's little Cinderella type run's going to end. They've picked up some good wins, but I got to go with Providence here.
Any other thoughts on this game besides just your pick? I mean, you've had a pretty great Big East so far this season, 2 top 4 teams. What are your thoughts about the Big East and where they might stand come March, especially if Creighton can make a big run here to finish out the Big East?
If Creighton can make a huge run, it's going to be sweet to see this Big East, honestly. Providence is going to get in no matter what, but if you add in another team, and it's a team
especially
like Creighton,
Creighton, the squad that's used to pulling off some upsets in March.
Yeah, so if you add a Creighton team in there with Providence and they start tearing things up, it's gonna be good. So, and we've seen a lot of top teams go down already. So Auburn's on their way right now. So, I mean, they're gonna go back. I mean, they're gonna be in the tournament no matter what. So they've already punched their ticket. So
Matt, Creighton right now expected to be a 9 seed out of the Big East for March Madness. So they look like they got a spot already too.
Okay, well that's good. But this is ups the resume a little bit.
Exactly. Yeah, I mean, really, the Big East is set with teams all across the board. I mean, you look at this Final Four they're having this weekend with Providence versus Creighton, UConn versus Nova. All of these teams are expected to be all rated inside of the top 10, most of which inside the top 5 as well. A very strong, top-heavy group this year. Teams like Marquette are even on the outside back at 10, along with Creighton. I mean, it's been a phenomenal year for this Big East, and a lot of people have been talking about just how much this conference is going to get in. I mean, Seton Hall is back there at a 21-10 overall record, 11-8 in conference play, and they're still looking at a top 10 seed in March Madness. So we talked about Xavier being that bubble team, most likely not to make it at this point, considering their loss in the first round of the Big East tournament. But when I go talk about this Providence Friars and Blue Jays game, I think this might be one of those times I actually have to go against Providence, because you've seen Creighton kind of turn on the Jets in some of these later games. I mean, they took down UConn. They did lose to Seton Hall, and they lost to Providence last time out. But this is a team that hasn't had a lot of playing time over the recent weeks. I think they got 5 days off to prepare for Marquette, came in there, won by double digits. I think they had their eyes set on the prize against Providence in this semifinal. As much as I love Providence, and I've said it all season long, I think I got to flip the script in this one and go Creighton. This March tournament so far has already been so crazy wild out there that I think it's almost hard to say the top seed is going to be guaranteed this win. I think Creighton's got as good a shot as any to take down Providence at this point. So I'm going to take Creighton.
That's a fair statement. We've seen big teams go down already. You know, teams like Providence.
Baylor just lost to Oklahoma, I believe earlier today or yesterday. So yeah,
who did Oklahoma beat again?
Baylor, the number 1
seed. Yeah,
Baylor.
you're seeing a lot of those teams.
Hey Matt, by the way, you had Baylor sitting at number 2 in your rankings this week, and they lose.
That's funny.
So you got 1 week off, but Baylor trips up the next.
Yeah. But you see a lot of those top
2 teams making it past the round of 64.
Yeah, but you see a lot of those top teams sandbagging a little bit because, I mean,
I think they're taking this time off. They know they got to go hard here in a couple of days to make that March run. I think you're seeing a little bit of sleep here. And obviously Penn State was able to take down Ohio State. Ohio State is still without Kyle Young. I think Kyle Young addition in March Madness, if they can get him back, adds a huge defensive side to a team that lacks a little bit of defensive incentiveness. Because I feel like every time Ohio State plays, it's the defense. You get down in the late stages, and they just they're a little lackadaisical, and I think they need some energy. Kyle Young will bring that back if they can get him in March. But, yeah, I mean, for the most part, with a lot of these teams, I mean, Kofi Cogburn put up a double-double in that game against Indiana, and they still lose by 2 points. It's coming down to the stars are performing. The guys around the stars aren't. So, for me with Providence, I know Nate Watson can go big, and I think I was just even saying it a minute ago, I expect him to do just fine here today. I think I'm actually going to flip that. With the way I've seen bigger players perform here, I think Nate Watson's going to have one of his off days here today, and I think that's going to be the reason Providence goes down to Creighton.
Yeah. I mean, we're seeing a lot of these big teams go down. So, I mean, you could very well see Penn State upset Purdue tonight. It could very well happen. They were close to them already. Yeah, close game with them already. Teams like Penn State, teams that like have no future unless they win out, they're dangerous. Indiana too.
Right. I mean, the status of Penn State right
Illinois,
now is
Ohio State, they're already going to be in it. So Purdue too.
right. And the thing is with Penn State right now is you don't even know if an NIT tournament is on the lookout for them because, I mean, they haven't had a good year. So there might be nothing after tomorrow if Penn State loses for them. So when you have no tomorrow, you become infinitely more dangerous. And I think that's what you see out of a lot of Cinderella teams. They're fighting for today while you're fighting for a championship. And
we've seen it with the high school basketball
today,
too.
Start tomorrow. What was that?
Seen that with high school basketball too. Badger, I mean, they were a 9 seed, and they're not even supposed to be there, but they played so hard, and they got there. So, on your case,
yeah.
I mean, yes, they're a top team back-to-back districts, but man, everybody's looking at Campbell, and now look where Mooney is. So.
Yep, they got a shot. Should be a great one.
Oh yeah.
I'll talk about more at the end of the show if we need to fill some more time. But getting back into some college basketball here on the other side of the conference, number 20 UConn and number 8 Villanova go 1-on-1 tonight, 9 p.m. Nova's been given the favorite in this one, 2.5 points, so not much disparity there. I kind of like what UConn's done in this later half of the season, and a lot of coaches will always tell you, I'm more afraid of the team that got hot late than the one that's been good all season because that one that got hot late has found something and there's no film on what's made them good. So part of me looking at this UConn team right now, I feel like they made a great jump in the second half of the season. There's not a lot people are going to know about them. Villanova did lose to this team just a couple weeks ago. I think UConn's coming in dangerous, though. I mean, they can rebound very efficiently. They're averaging 6.6 blocks per game. Their size has been a definite factor in their games this season, and not to mention multiple double-digit wins for them in the past few weeks. This is huge going into March at this point, with their only loss coming to Creighton back on March 2nd to start out the month, one of their final 2 regular season games. Villanova's last loss was to UConn. They've since beat Providence, Butler, and St. John's. I think Nova's run ends here. I think they take the night off. UConn comes in, takes it away. Nova gets their happy spot in the top 10, and UConn has a shot to move up.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. I think UConn can upset some teams. I like this UConn team, and I think they might have a ticket punched already. I mean, they were in and out of the rankings all year, so they have to.
UConn right now is sitting at 5.
Okay, but
and Nova's 3.
Yeah, so Nova's came to play too. So, but I think that they might just slip up just a little bit for them to lose, for UConn to come in and take it. So, yeah, I'm with you there.
Yeah, if anything, you're bound for 2 great games in the Big East today. I don't think the viewers are going to be the ones losing. That's for sure when you see these games. And it is official: 67-62. Texas A&M upsets the number 4 ranked Auburn Tigers.
So Auburn went down.
Semi-final. Cincinnati still leading over Houston, and Iowa and Rutgers just tipped off on the Big Ten Network. But don't go anywhere, folks. We'll be keeping an eye on those games going on here while you're watching the marvelous Casual
Keep
Sports
me updated too.
And Matt Moore. Yeah, Matt can't see anything going on. Matt's going off his own brain here at the moment. He ain't got no computers, no numbers to look at. He's just talking out of his rear, as I think some would say.
So I would do that anyways. But did you just say Cincinnati is winning?
Yeah, Cincinnati's beating Houston right now by 7 points at the start of the second.
No way! Go!
I believe that's the only way Cincinnati gets in as well. I mean, I'm going to check.
That would be sweet, though.
Cincinnati doesn't have a spot, and Houston is projected as a 5 seed.
Oh man.
Yeah, so the Americans about to get thrown into some serious chaos here, and Rutgers is actually getting a nice run to start out the game as well. They lead Iowa 7-2 in the early stages. Still very early. That's going to change.
Yeah, Iowa came out and played last night, though.
Yeah. Yeah, you saw that. I mean, Iowa came out right into the gate and was jumping on stuff immediately, and now they got a big win because of it. Rutgers is coming out with that same mentality here. I mean,
Iowa's a sleeper team,
and that Rutgers team is going to be a force to reckon with here.
Them too. Iowa and Rutgers, if they're both in, man, look out.
Yeah, they are both in. Rutgers
They're
right
both
now
in.
is an 11 seed, and they have Iowa poised to be a 5 seed, actually.
Wow. Keegan Murray can go off when he wants to.
Yeah,
So.
it should be exciting to see. Well, let's move on here. Next conference semifinal matchups tonight. We got TCU in action against Kansas. Pulled off the big win against Texas, but the question is, can they carry that over and get a win over Kansas, and who, in my opinion, is a lot better than Texas? I was not impressed with Texas.
Texas can't shoot. They
Yeah,
can't shoot.
I mean, considering their leading scorer is Tim Allen, averaging, 12 and a half points a game. They haven't been very impressive all season long. TCU was running kind of a low, downhill spiral into the end of the season. I mean, lost to Kansas and WVU on the road. I know they beat Texas Tech and Kansas just before that in their final homestand of the year, but to come out against Texas, a top 25 team, and play the way they did, to me, this TCU team is dangerous. And when you get a dangerous team in March, you know how things normally turn out. Kansas, on the other hand, they got the big win over WVU, Huggy Bear, to start out conference play. Huggy Bear's Mountaineers are frankly terrible in the Big 12 this season. 4-14 finished last place in the Big 12. Sad to see. They had such a promising start to the year as well, too.
Yeah, they did.
They were 14. They were 14-3 out of conference, and then went 4-14 in conference play. Almost a complete reversal of what that was.
Yeah.
But when you got Kansas here tonight, this is one of those games. With the way I've been talking about Kansas recently, and the fact that I don't think I have a lot of faith in what this program has delivered, especially this season, to me, I've gone all upsets here so far. I got Brayton taking down Providence. I got UConn taking down Nova. Screw it. I might as well say TCU's taking down Kansas. With March,
might as well. It's a safe pick
because at this point,
that's what's been happening so far.
Right,
everybody's been upsetted.
Right, most of these numbers would tell you to take Kansas, but I think with that final win at home for TCU against Kansas, double digits. Kansas came back the next game and won by 4. I think if TCU jumps on this one early, they got the shot to win this one. So I'm going to take TCU, Matt. Are you going to pull the upset as well, or are you sticking
I'm
with
going to stick with Kansas. This has to end sooner or later. A top team has to win, okay? They have to win sooner or later. So I wouldn't be surprised, though.
Yeah, I mean, this will give us a late shakeup as well into the March Madness standings. I mean, with Auburn and Baylor both dropping here, I mean, it can really open up this field and maybe allow a team that thought they were going to be a 1 to slip down to a 2 as Matt's first, and they are in quite the funny position. Now fast forwarding and pausing again. Looks like a broken VCR at the moment. Are you in here, Matt?
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay, he's back in.
Hear
Wonderful.
Me?
Yeah, I got you
right.
now. You were like a broken VCR for a second there, just doing whatever the heck you wanted. Okay, next game in the Big 12, though. Oklahoma taking down Baylor just last night, 72-67. Now they got the Texas Tech Red Raiders, who dominated Iowa State, winning by 31 points in the opening round. To me, Texas Tech came out and made a statement in that first round of it. Their shooting hasn't been that great all season long, but I think you saw something out of that performance last night with the way their defense turned into offense. I think Texas Tech is coming out smoking hot tonight. I think they're going to have a fantastic ball game. I know this Oklahoma team, they took down number 3 Baylor. You got to be pretty damn good to do that, and they were in that game. I don't know if that carries over to the second game, though. I mean, they had some good performances. I mean, Groves got them 15, Hill got them 10, Gibson got 14, and Goldweiler got 10. Johnson had a dozen off the bench. I mean, they got 75% from free throw, 53% from downtown, and 51% from the field. Baylor was 3 of 22 from deep. I don't think two teams are going to have back-to-back terrible shooting nights like that against this Oklahoma squad. Oklahoma got lucky with the bad shooting on Baylor's side. I don't think they catch 2 straight. I think Texas Tech comes back here, ends that run of the Sooners, and let's see where Oklahoma currently sits. They are not in March, so they need this one to win it. Texas Tech should be in it as well. They're a 4 seed right now, so Oklahoma, they need it to move on. They need it to get in.
Oh, man. Yeah, I mean, that makes them a dangerous team, but, I mean, Texas Tech has been dangerous all year, and Oklahoma's finally deciding to be dangerous. And I just think a team that's been dangerous all season is just more dangerous. So I got to go Texas Tech. I do like what Oklahoma's done. First-year coach Porter Moser, the guy knows how to take underdogs. I mean, he was the head coach for Loyola Chicago for a decade. And he took that 11 seed Loyola to the Final Four. So you really never know. You never know. So.
Yeah, for sure. And the one thing, with Oklahoma at this state, they've been terrible in Big 12 Conference. They pulled off some great wins throughout the regular season too, but you never saw it carry over into a second or even third game. They weren't able to make those big runs like you want to see. I mean, they took down Florida early in the season. They beat Arkansas out of conference play. Then they jumped into the Big 12, lost to Baylor. They beat Iowa State, who turned out to be a bit of a flop. Lost to Texas, TCU, Kansas, and Baylor 4 straight. Beat West Virginia, lost 3 straight to Auburn, TCU, Oklahoma State. Were able to beat Texas Tech, but then lost 3 more games, including, another 4 games straight. This team can't put back-to-back good wins together. They got Baylor. They're going to flop here.
What did you say you cut out?
Oh, I was just saying they've been great all season. I mean, they've been great in certain games, but back-to-back games, they haven't been able to put things together. So I think they flop here in this one. And I think they fall up short in Big 12 play.
Yeah. I'm with that. They haven't.
Let's head over into the ACC then as we're nearing the halfway point of the Casual Sports Podcast. Well, Matt's still holding on strong here on the broadcast. He was out there for about 15 minutes. You were out of this show, coming back in to help it out in the middle and see how long you can stick around.
We're going through the Pocono Mountains. Just cuts.
Yeah, well, now in the ACC semifinal to move on to the championship game, the Hurricanes are taking on the Duke Blue Devils. The Blue Devils, Matt,
beat them already.
On a strong Syracuse. That was a fun game to watch. Miami hung on in overtime and just narrowly beat Boston College. They beat Boston College actually in 2 of their last 3 games of the season so far. They also got a win over Syracuse.
That was a good game. I watched that whole game.
Yeah.
The way it ended, though, I'm like, are you serious? That was the worst defense ever.
Yeah,
everybody was wide open down the court.
Yeah, well, for me, Matt, coming into this game, Miami, they got the close win over Boston College, but I think Duke jumps right back on it. I mean, they were the top team in the ACC. I know we've seen a lot of crazies, but at some point I got to keep falling back on the top teams. And, Duke, they've been up and down a little bit this season, but Miami, 23-9 overall. That was great. 14-6 in conference play. They were finished 4th in the ACC regular season. To me, with how weak it was, I'm not sure they can compete against a team like Duke going into this one. They beat them early in January.
They did beat them early.
2 points, and that was the only matchup we saw between the two. They had some okay out-of-conference wins, but you saw when they went up against top 10 teams, really just twice on the season, lost to Alabama by 32, and they beat Duke by 2. To me, this team, their record's deceiving. They have had a strength of schedule I would put probably near the bottom of Power 6 conference teams. So I don't see much out of Miami. I think people will look at this record and see a little bit more than what's actually there, especially because you look at the ACC and you go, oh, it's the ACC. They got to be good at basketball. This was a down year for the ACC. I think a lot of casual people won't notice that, and I think it's going to be a big reason why brackets bust here in March. So I got a big no-no on Miami right now, a big red X. Don't pick this team because that top 10, top 4 finish in the ACC, it's empty, man. There's nothing there. There's no weight behind it. That's just straight up drywall. You're going to lean up against it and fall right through.
Yeah. Yep. I mean, it's for the ACC. I'm pretty much. I think everybody's just watching these games just to see Duke and North Carolina, just so they can get back and play each other again. They're both one game away, right?
Yeah, these are the semifinals we're picking.
All right. So yeah, I'm definitely going with Duke. Yes, like you said, Miami did get them, but this is a different Duke team. Duke is, quite frankly, they're pissed. They want.
I hope so. I hope they keep that with them, man. Yeah, don't let Coach K lose the final game and then lose in the tournament to a team like Miami.
They're not happy.
You're right. You can't let this happen. I think these players should be playing with an extra chip on their shoulder, and I hope they can run through with it because this should be a special season and a special moment to remember for Coach K. It hasn't been that so far. So I want to see them get back on there and find some way to get a little bit of momentum, roll this into March Madness, and see what comes out of it.
Yeah, me too. Me too. I'm going to be watching this team.
Moving on to the other ACC semifinal, the Virginia Tech Hokies, the team that finished quite a ways back in conference play, 11-9 overall, were able to somehow take down Clemson and Notre Dame in back-to-back games, both of which were nail-biters. The Tar Heels are on a 6-game winning streak, though. Matt, to me, Virginia Tech, I'm writing them off here. They've been picked as just a 2.5-point underdog in this game. The matchup predictor even says to take Virginia Tech in this game. I don't see it. To me, Virginia Tech, much like Miami, that record's a little empty. You see 21-12, but then you go 500 in a pretty terrible ACC this season. You lost to teams like Memphis and Xavier early on out of conference, and you couldn't find a single win against top 25 teams. And they also had losses in there to teams like Dayton, who were okay, but definitely were not at their level. They were able to take down St. Bonaventure at one point and Maryland, but that was so long ago. I haven't seen anything really in a while that's impressed me. They've had some good winning streaks. I mean, they went on a 6-game win streak, but then you look at who they're against: Florida State, Georgia Tech, Pitt, Syracuse, and Virginia. Those aren't good teams. You know, you just look at the numbers and you see Georgia Tech's at the bottom, Pitt's at the bottom. Even Florida State's down there below Virginia Tech. And, Virginia was 12-8 in conference play, but they weren't even 20 wins with an easy schedule out of conference. So to me, we get a Duke UNC rematch, and that's the way it should be because those were the two only good teams in the ACC this year. And I don't even know how much good you can say about those two teams because they were fine. They weren't great by any stretch, but they were fine this season. The strength of their recruits has kept them at the top of the AP polls all season long. That's the one statement is it's because of their recruiting that they're this high up in the polls. Because I think any other conference that's this bad, if they don't have those high prospect recruits, I think they probably take a slip in the polls, and I don't think we see either one in the top 10. But Duke's been able to hold up there. UNC, they got a spot in the tournament. I think they both show up here in the semifinal, and we get another matchup here in the to finish out conference championship weekend, and we see an ACC championship crown between these two.
Yeah, I think it's inevitable at this point. We're going to see Duke. We're going to see North Carolina. They're both in, but both of these teams are playing their heart outs again because I know North Carolina wants that matchup again because they knew Duke is coming for them, and they're preparing themselves as much as they can for this game. You know, for leading up to this game, as I should say. I mean,
and North Carolina right now is supposed to be a 7 seed as well in the tournament.
Yeah, they're both going to get
like Virginia Tech. Virginia Tech right now, the only one of these ACC teams competing at the moment that doesn't have a spot in March Madness. Because Miami right now sits at 11. Virginia Tech's on the bubble. So maybe they come in here a little bit more dangerous, maybe not. Waiting to see because they had a good stretch down the final stretch of the regular season, but they started off so sluggish. I don't think meaningless wins against some bad teams is really going to be enough to say this was the team that should be going all the way. All right, well, Let's go in here to the next set of conference games. The Pac-12 Semi-Finals going on. First one up here, USC versus UCLA. Yet again, the two teams out there on the West Coast going up against one another. They've had some great battles this season. UCLA took the most recent one, 75-68, and the earlier one between these two on the season resulted in a USC 67-64 win. I love the grudge match going on here, Matt. I mean, these have been really the 2 and 3 seeds behind Arizona all season long. I think it's only fitting we see grudge match between these two, with UCLA taking the more recent and a more dominant win as well. Both teams won at home. Now you get that neutral site game. I think you get another close one. But when it has to come down to talent, I think Johnny Usang is a little bit better than Isaiah Mobley at the moment. I mean, they both have a lot of room to grow. But if this game comes down to free throws and Mobley gets sent there, he's not a great free throw shooter. I think that's going to hurt them tonight. When you get in big games, you always see it, especially in high school and college. Free throws matter so much more than I think they ever do in the NBA because you don't have consistent outside shooting all the time. It comes down to if you drive and you can't make your shot, well, then you better get to the free throw line because that guy, they're going to take that ball and they're going to run it down to you on the other end. You know, you got a lot of very talented athletes, some of which in the prime of their athletic abilities, especially with USC and UCLA. Their training programs have been phenomenal in these last few years. So I think if it comes down to free throws in this game, you're giving that edge to this UCLA squad. That's the reason I'm going to pick them here to take down USC. I like USC better. I mean, I like Mobley. You know, I like their team. But at the same time, you got to pick off who's got the better matchups here. And I think UCLA has the matchups in this game.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with you there. UCLA is a good team. I like USC. I like Mobley. Then, you know, it is a grudge match too. You said I'll go the other way. I'll go USC. Even though, I mean, UCLA has got. I mean, they got everything they need to, you know, to win this game. But you know, we've seen a lot of those teams that have everything they need to win games not win games. So I gotta go USC here.
Right, and right now USC poised to be a 7 seed, UCLA poised to be a 4, though, so a little bit of separation between the two, but I think that's the way that both of these squads want it to be. And also, looking back over at the Houston-Cincinnati game, with 11:19 to go, Houston has retaken the lead 44-41 over the Bearcats of Cincinnati. Iowa still trails Rutgers by 6 points, 19-13, with 11:52 to go until halftime. Those are the only two top 25 games we have going on at the moment. So that being said, let's go over to Arizona. They got another fun one. This should be interesting. Arizona versus Colorado. Matt, this Colorado team, they've been dangerous here in the late goings. I mean, 4 of their last 5 they've won. And they've had some good wins in that. These aren't as empty wins as you see, I think, a lot of other teams to finish out the year. They got a win over Oregon, who they were up and down, but they were a pretty solid team. Utah was a fluff win. They beat Arizona, though, on the 26th of February. They lost Arizona State, but they beat Stanford. They had some strong performances down the stretch. Now they have to get one more to get to that Pac-12 championship game. If Colorado can get there this season, I think they take home a championship in the Pac-12.
Yeah, they could very well. I mean, they just beat Arizona. I mean, Arizona's good. And, you know, Arizona's already automatically in. So, and we've seen a lot of those top teams. I don't think, let's see, there's not a lot of that top 5. Like, your top 5 are, like, done in their conference tournaments. Besides Gonzaga, they won their conference. Well, Auburn is out. Baylor is out. You know, Arizona is right there, too. So, you never know. Colorado already beat them, so they could very well do it again. They're dangerous.
Matt, to that degree, you look at the 2021 Pac-12 men's basketball tournament. You had the 1-seeded Oregon dropping out in the semifinals. You had USC losing in the semifinals. They were the 2 seeds. They lost to the 3-seeded Colorado, who was nearly upset by number 11 Cal in the quarterfinal. And Colorado has a chance to make back-to-back championship appearances in the Pac-12. They lost it last year to Oregon State, a team that we haven't even talked about at all this season. They've been so bad. To me, the Pac-12 is so unpredictable of a conference. I don't think just because you have a favorite through there. And, you know, with that 1 seed going down last year in the semifinals to a 5 seed, and you have Colorado looking into this game as a 4 seed going up against the 1, I think you might have a similar situation you did last year. I'm very intrigued to see Colorado, and I think I'm going to pick them in this game.
Me too.
To take down Arizona. Really, you're going with it too? Oh, dear.
I'm going to go Colorado. Absolutely. But I remember that Oregon State team. They beat Loyola Chicago.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, Oregon State this season, though. 3 wins overall, 1 win in conference play in the Pac-12.
What happened?
Talk about a complete role reversal from winning the Pac-12 championship tournament last year to 3 wins. They had more wins in the Pac-12 tournament last year than they did in this entire season.
Man.
That's one of
hey,
the
look what happened to Georgetown. So
yeah,
it can happen.
but so at the moment we got 2 more conferences to go down here with 20 minutes to go on the show. So let's get into it. As waiting for stuff to load here. First game we got to look at over in the Mountain West as things are still loading here. I got the game, but we got Boise State taking on Wyoming, our first of 2 games here in the Mountain West Championship semifinal in Las Vegas. Should be a great one. I think both of these teams were really strong. Obviously, Wyoming had that big run where we couldn't get enough of them. Boise State, though, came out of nowhere and took away that right at first place of the Mountain West. They're the 1 seed coming in here tonight. They did have a loss to Colorado State just the other day, but Wyoming, to me, Matt, we were hyped on them. They were having a great run. Then they started slipping up in the late going. I don't know how much confidence I have with them anymore. They almost lost to UNLV in the first round. I don't think they get past Boise State here, who had a tough matchup against Nevada in that first round, and they nearly came out with a win. I don't think either one of these teams are built for a deep run. Maybe around a 32 appearance into March Madness, but I think I give my edge to Boise State in this one. I'm not overly impressed at this point with either team. Boise State currently poised to be a 7 seed overall, and Wyoming is going to be where they have a 12 seed at the moment. So when you look at these matchups, I think I give a slight edge to Boise State to take this Mountain West championship.
Yeah, I see where your point is there. Wyoming, I've liked this Wyoming team this whole season. Yes, they slacked off a little bit, but I mean, hey, they made it there. They're there.
All it takes is one.
Huh?
All it takes is one day.
All it takes is one day. So I'm gonna go with the Cowboys here. I think they've had a solid team for most of the year, and they slacked off a little bit. But hey, conference tournaments, and they need to win. So they're going to be playing their best ball.
On the other side of the semifinal, I think the winner of this game might actually go on to take the Mountain West Championship. You got the San Diego State Aztecs, one of the best basketball programs in the history of basketball that really has had a couple of quiet years here. They got the number 23 ranked Colorado State Rams, a team that has actually had one of their better seasons in quite some time. And at the moment, they look to sit at a 7 spot right now in March Madness, and I'm sure San Diego State sitting back at a 10 would love to flip swap spots with them potentially and get some more favorable matchups their way. So I think San Diego State's going to come out of this one very aggressive. They haven't been a great scoring team this season. They said just 65.8 points per game, and their defense is what has gotten them to this point. And Matt, from what I've seen, over in high school basketball and college basketball in the past, defense wins championships in basketball, and so does rebounding. San Diego State has the advantage in both of those matchups here. So I'm giving it to San Diego State. I love the Aztecs. I think they get another shot at making a stronger statement in March Madness.
Yeah. I mean, they're a solid team. I've talked about them before, San Diego State. I mean, I've said it multiple times. They're like one of the best teams in basketball. But 2 years ago,
Yeah.
So they're trying to get back where they were, and this is the way they're going to do it. Yes, Colorado State probably playing some of their best basketball, probably in program history, honestly. But I got to go. I mean, San Diego State is on a mission. I truly believe that. Colorado State's probably already in. I mean, they're ranked, so they probably already have their spot.
Right.
But I got to go San Diego State here. I'm going to roll with the Aztecs.
Yeah, and I think that's the smart pick coming out of it. I think Colorado State's got a shot. I mean, they've had a couple of tournament appearances. This would be their first tournament. It's going to be their first tournament appearance, though, in almost a decade. They last got in 2013, which is also the same year they made it to the round of 32, which was the first time they had done that since 1989. This is the team, though, that hasn't reached the Elite Eight since 1969. Don't expect it to be this season, but expect some chaos coming out of Colorado State. They're a team that can make
anything
around. Yeah. Well, let's finish this thing off. The final set of games we got to talk about here for Conference Championship weekend before we head into the official March Madness brackets next week. The Ivy League, their semifinals go in tonight. really it's one team to watch for that everyone's waiting to see if they can come out of the Ivy League, and that is Princeton. They start off against Cornell here. They're the 14 seed, I believe the only seed as well that is going to get in here, so long as they win conference championship. The Ivy League winner gets in. If Princeton drops it at this point, they are done. They are out. They might not get that spot. They're up at a 14 seed right now. There might be room behind them at a 16 if they fall back a little bit, but those spots are getting claimed up very quickly. They could end up being one of
They
those
have to win.
But they need to win. I'd rather say control my destiny, get to the Ivy League championship. They're going up against Cornell, who's 15-10 overall, 7-7 in conference play. They haven't been great, but they got to win hosting Yale to finish out the season. Then they had their opening round win was against Columbia in the quarterfinals. Says screen went all weird there for a second. Sorry, but a big part of this season, I mean,
All right.
they just were not great. I mean, Cornell, they were fine, but when it came to time for conference play, they couldn't put wins together. They had a couple nice ones. They beat Princeton actually earlier in the season on February 4th. I don't think they get another one here. I think Princeton comes out knowing they need to get this game to get into March. So I got Princeton taking this one.
Me too. I've been kind of tracking them all year, and I've liked what I've seen from them. So I like this Princeton team. It's about time somebody from that Ivy League does something good in this tournament. I think this is the year they might want to win a couple games in. They're good.
On the other side of this conference, we got the Penn Quakers taking on the Yale Bulldogs. Matt, this Penn team was one we were talking about not too long ago as a serious contender to take away the Ivy League. They ended up slipping it in the later stages of it, especially with that loss against Princeton, really hurt their shot at making that run up. They split the season series against Yale, double-digit loss to start, double-digit win to finish it out, and near that at least. But when you look at the Quakers this season, man, I'm not overly impressed with the defensive effort. I mean, they're allowing more points than they're scoring, and anytime you see that, they can't block. Their rebounding numbers aren't fantastic. Every number right now is in favor of Yale. And, when you talk Ivy League, it's all about statistics. I'll roll statistics with this one, and I'll take Yale, which sets up Yale versus Princeton for the Ivy League championship, which to me is probably one of the better matchups you could ask for with the prestigious Ivy League schools.
Yeah, I want that matchup. I'm going to go Yale, too. That's going to be a heck of a matchup. Ivy League basketball. But, man, one of these two teams could very well win a couple games in the tournament, too. So.
Yeah, I think Princeton more the chance than Yale. But, yeah, I mean,
Princeton more, yeah.
Iowa, looking in at games going on right now, Iowa has retaken the lead against Rutgers. They now lead at 24-27, 11 to go until halftime. And Houston maintains a 4-point lead against Cincinnati with 7.5 to go in that game. And just starting out now, Arkansas, LSU, SEC tournament quarterfinal game. Let's jump out of some college basketball, though. And, Matt, let's talk highlight of the week. We don't know how much longer we'll keep you on here, so let's get into these. Then I'll talk a little NBA if you drop out here at the end of it. But, Matt, what has been your highlight of the week in the sports world?
In the sports world, I mean, I probably got to give it to that game last night. That was a pretty cool game. It was a blowout game. I mean,
which game are you referring to for people that don't know?
Brooklyn Nets took on the Sixers. The Brooklyn Nets came in and just wiped the floor with them. But the environment to be in it, I mean, you should have seen where we were sitting. There was like a restaurant right behind us. People were eating steak dinners, looking out, watching the game. I'm like, oh my gosh.
That sounds delicious.
it was, yeah, I know. It was a great atmosphere, and of course it was Ben Simmons' return, so I mean you saw the fans going off a little bit, so it was cool. Well,
Matt, on my side, I was going to try and go somewhere other than high school basketball this week, but I got dancing on the south side of Youngstown. I don't think there's anywhere else I can go and call myself a sports fan, because I got the ultimate Cinderella story coming up this week, and also gives me a little bit of chance to preview this game one final time. You can check it out 7 p.m. on YSNlive.com on pay-per-view. I issued a challenge yesterday to Cardinal Mooney faithful. Come out to Canton Memorial Fieldhouse, pack this gym for potentially the first chance to make it to their a state championship or semifinal appearance. for the first time in what I think might be 20 years. I that's as far back as I could get statistically on it using the internet here. I'm going to keep trying to dig as I go later into the weekend to figure out last time in it, but this is the biggest game in over 20 years in the history of Cardinal Mooney basketball. So I'm issuing a challenge. Pack this gym, pack this arena. I want a sea of red and gold this weekend for Cardinal Mooney because
when is that game?
Is dancing. What's that?
When is that game?
7 p.m. this Saturday on YSNlive.com. Myself and Ty Bartell back on the call against Lutheran East, the defending state champions that beat Cardinal Mooney by 40 points last year in the Sweet 16 matchup. We get redemption here at Canton Memorial. Same site as last year's battle as well, but now a different set of stakes as both teams were average in the regular season. They both decided to load up on some amazing schedules and really just ran through the gauntlet. I mean, Lutheran East finished 11-9 in the regular season and still earned themselves a 2 seed because they were going up against teams that are dominating in Division I and Division II basketball. So
wow.
the E3 regional final game is going to be epic. I can't wait to see it. I hope all the fans from Cardinal Mooney can come out, and I hope the school can help out getting those fans there because this is an unforgettable moment about to happen for Cardinal Mooney. Win or lose, this is going to be my highlight next week, seeing what this team does because it has been absolutely epic this year, and I can only imagine what's up next.
Yeah. Whew. Should be a good game.
Well, Matt, I guess that leaves one segment here for you while you're still on it. This week's Meathead of the Week, baby.
All right, so this week's Meathead of the Week, it's got to be Buddy Boeheim. Come on. Just giving that Florida State player a cheap shot right in the stomach, too. And I don't even know where they give it to him or his dad. Dad actually coming in saying, I don't see any problem with it, I get it. You're not going to call out your son, but, come on. The guy hit him right in the gut and didn't give him a look. Like he was
talk about a sucker punch.
Yeah. Like he didn't feel remorse at all. Like his look was like, yeah, take that. It wasn't like, oh, I'm sorry or anything like that. He did that on purpose.
Right.
So.
Well, let's jump out of here. Let's finish things off. We'll go quickly into the NHL. Matt, Lightning versus Oilers this weekend. What you got?
I do like this Edmonton team. They're a good hockey team, but I got to roll with the defending champs here. I got to go Tampa Bay Lightning. They've sucked off a little bit, but they're a top team, and the Oilers have been floating around a couple of times here too. So I got to go Lightning here.
I'm going to go Lightning in this one too. My differential has them taking this one by a big margin. It did burn me in that Avalanche Hurricanes game last night, Matt. That was a great one to see. The other side though, Panthers taking on the Kings. I'm going to take Panthers in this one. They have just been awesome this season for my
They have been. I'm going to
go. So Kings have been good too. They're following up right behind the Flames in the Pacific. But with the way this Panthers defense and their offense has really lit up this season, I think it's almost impossible to pick against them. At the moment, when you got a team that scored 243 goals on the season and has allowed just 170.
Yeah, they're a heck of a team.
Yeah, they are. They allow a lot of goals, and that's going to be worrying come Stanley Cup playoffs. But I really like what I've seen so far out of the Panthers.
Yeah, I'm going to go Florida here too, but I think the Kings are going to play them close.
Over into the NBA, Mavs and Celtics. I'm actually going to give this one to the Celtics. I like what they've been doing recently. I think they're getting back on that high horse, and they seem to be a team.
Mavericks haven't been playing too well.
Shooting up the standings as well.
Yeah, Mavericks haven't been playing good basketball recently, and Boston has, so I got to go with the Celtics.
Yeah, and the Celtics actually, they jumped the Cavs as well. They're up to 5th place now in the Eastern Conference. Mavericks, they're 7-3 in the last 10. I really like what they've started putting together, but they don't seem to be able to put wins together consistently. And also got to mention the Suns became the first team to clinch a playoff spot this season. 53-13, they are officially in the top 6 as well. And also on the side of the Lakers, obviously people are following what that squad does. They have less than a 1% chance to make the playoffs outside of being a play-in team. They can make it into the play-in tournament, but they have virtually zero chance to make it into the actual set of the postseason. So interesting number there, but another game here in the NBA as we're both rolling Celtics in this one. Timberwolves versus the Heat, Matt. What do you got for that one?
Heat. I like this Timberwolves team, though. But,
Fair enough.
Big
I
East,
mean, definitely the top team in the Eastern Conference as of right now. They've really been holding down their fort. But, man, I don't know what it is. I like the Timberwolves. I think they're a sleeper team this year. And,
they are.
I always like these teams that float 5, 6, 7, especially at this point in the year. If you see one of these teams make that big run going into the postseason and run in there hot, they make some really good matchups, and can he actually pull some of those upsets a few times? So I'm going to go the other side of this one. I like the Timberwolves. Last game, Raptors, Suns. Raptors, they've been falling off. Suns continue to play fantastic basketball. By and far the favorites to win this year's NBA championship. They should take it. I mean, they should have an easy ride all the way down. No one has been a challenger to them this season, but I'm taking the Suns, Matt. You're going Suns as well?
Oh, yeah.
All
Saw
right.
their former son, Steve Nash, last night on the sidelines. I think I watched him more than the game. I'm like, there's Steve Nash.
Yeah.
But that was pretty cool.
Brooklyn Nets. But that is going to do it here for the Casual Sports Podcast. Wrap up a couple of minutes earlier than we normally do, but that's okay. No need to fill when nothing needs to be filled. Tune in to Power Hour coming up next year on YSNlive.com. Another week done. Next week, we turn to the tourney, March Madness and Cinderella's Dance. We'll see who goes all the way. Should be epic few weeks here nonetheless. But I've been Alek Koberna. That's Matt Morrison. You can see me on YSN Live tomorrow night, 7 p.m. Cardinal Mooney's dancing. Can they make it to the Final Four? Should be epic. But that does it here. Alek Koberna, YSNlive.com. We'll see you all next week with some March Madness.